So hello everyone, my name is Vikas Agrawal and I'm the founder of AIF and PMS Advisors India. Today is a very special day because we have with us Mr. Parag Thakkar. Parag Thakkar is a senior fund manager at ICICI and heads the equity for the PMS business. We also have Mr. Devi Prasad Nair with us. He heads the alternate business for ICICI Prudential Mutual Fund. As some of you might be aware that we run the show called Ask the Expert, wherein we invite the industry experts and try and understand, what do they think about markets and also understand what kind of philosophies do they follow to manage public money. Firstly, let me have the privilege of welcoming Mr. Parag Thakkar. So, welcome
Right.
on the show, Parag.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
All right.
Uh,
So what I'm going to do is I'll be asking you a couple of questions on behalf of our investors, and at the same time we'll also be interacting with Devi Prasad.
sure.
Sure.
First question which comes to my mind, Parag, is that you have almost 2 decades of experience in the area of investing, more so particularly investing in equity markets, and you spend almost 4 years with ICICI now. So
Correct.
if you could just share your experience
Sure.
for our investors to know how do you read the markets and what has been your experience so far.
Sure. Yeah, thanks a lot to you and your viewers. And I hope all of them are well. Just to share with you, it has been an excellent journey of 2 decades tracking stock markets very closely. I'm extremely passionate follower of equities as an asset class, and I have the biggest learning which I have is that if you invest in a genuine business which has a reasonable market share in its own segment, which is low leverage company, and which earns average ROC of above 15% over a period of say 5-10 years average ROC. And if it generates a lot of operating cash flows, that means working capital leakage is lesser. And if you try to buy those kind of companies during big market corrections, like big events, big negative events like demonetization or recent COVID, then you make a huge amount of money in these markets, which far, I would say, outperforms any other asset class returns. So this has been my learning that you have to keep your list ready. You have to buy good quality companies across sectors when markets and sentiments are bad.
Okay. So you also manage and head the equity team for ICICI PMS. So can you throw some more lights in terms of what is your investment philosophy as a house? B is what kind of process is being involved while you are managing public money?
Sure. So we have articulated this in our theme notes and our PPTs that we follow a core 4 framework. And in this core 4 framework, the first part is the quality of business. The quality of business is determined by the return ratios, by the leverage, the capital intensity. It means if the business requires a lot of capital to grow, then definitely it is a lesser attractive business. If a business is asset light, it generates high ROC, it generates very high cash flows, then it's a high quality business. So a quality of business, quality of promoter, which is very important. Because if the promoter does a good capital allocation, then that high ROC business continues to generate higher free cash flows, and therefore your dividend payout increases, or I would say companies do buybacks, and so as you have seen, right, for how IT companies have rewarded shareholders, or FMCG companies have rewarded shareholders, right, because their business models are light, they are asset light business models, so you don't require a lot of capital to grow and you generate a lot of cash flows. So those kind of companies have created huge wealth for shareholders. So quality of business, quality of promoter is the first part. Of course the leverage is second. So if business does not require huge amount of capital to grow, then you will not have a leverage. So that leverage part is very important. So we have a cap that we don't invest in any businesses which has net debt to EBITDA of more than 2x. And that has really helped us a lot, and in terms of avoiding accidents, avoiding many companies where there was a clear-cut trap in terms of balance sheet. So balance sheet is very, very important. Working capital leakage, as I was saying, is very important, because if the business does not generate cash flow and actually the entire money gets stuck in debtors or inventory, then again that business does not create huge wealth for shareholders. So quality of business, quality of promoters. Third part, of course, is sentiments. So as I said, that if you buy best of the businesses, but if markets are fully priced, then it does not leave too much on the table for investors. But if you buy during bad times, during bad sentiments for the entire market or for that sector, then the entry point becomes so good that the margin of safety increases, and over a period you get a very good return. So sentiment is the third factor, and of course the fourth part is valuations, and valuations comes along with the sentiment. So if you buy a very good stock, but if you fully pay for it, then for many years you don't get any return. But if you pay a price which offers you margin of safety, then of course your returns are very good. So I would say that we follow this core 4 framework in every investing I would say opportunity, and that has helped us a lot.
Sure. So there are two more questions which comes to my mind after listening to you about your framework. So one is when you talk about quality, essentially quality is a subjective thing. So how do you come to a point saying that it's a good quality company?
So see,
Can you elaborate?
Yeah. So first is there are businesses which are high quality, which is like IT, pharma, FMCG. Those kind of businesses are always, I would say, this is a quality business and sustainable businesses where they keep generating a lot of free cash flows. They are recurring businesses. They are not cyclical businesses. So one is that quality, and second is within the sector there is a quality. So for example, cement is a cyclical business, but you will have a cement company, say, which reduces debt over a period of time from its operating cash flows, and it becomes a multi-bagger for you. We have got many such cement companies in India. I can tell you at least 2 of them, which have created huge wealth for shareholders in spite of being a business which is cyclical. A tire company, we all know, right? The tire company is the highest stock price. That has created huge wealth for shareholders. And how it has created that wealth? It has kept plowing back the profits which it makes in the business, and they've invested very wisely into the business. And so the profits have kept expanding, and the number of shares have not gone up. So your earning per share keeps going up, and so intrinsic value of the business keeps going up, and stock becomes a multi-bagger. So one is quality of business itself, and that is, as I said, pharma, IT, FMCG are examples of best quality businesses. And second is quality of company, quality of promoter within a sector. So nobody can say that you cannot create wealth out of IT, pharma, FMCG sectors. You can create wealth out of cyclical sectors also, if you are with a good promoter.
Yeah. The other thing you mentioned is that sentiments and entry point also makes a lot of difference.
Absolutely.
But generally, when the sentiment gets affected, the cash flow of the investor also gets affected. Right. So that point of time, how do you sort of manage and deal with this kind of situation?
Right. So that brings us to I would say, sector rotation theme, which we follow as a house in our investing framework. So for example, in the month of January, when financials, weight of financials was at 42%, and everybody was gung ho about financials. We were significantly underweight in financials at that time, because we thought that the valuations were euphoric considering the state of economy, right? So, and right now, for example, as we speak, there is a lot of I would say, fear around moratorium. What will happen to restructuring? What will happen to moratorium? So now the valuation is in comfort zone if you give it a time. So that brings us to a sector rotation theme, that when market turns euphoric, and in a market which is completely fueled with liquidity and low interest rates, it is very natural for the market to become euphoric on a particular sector or a particular company, and that is the time you have to actually trim your exposure also. So that gives you cash to buy when there is a panic.
All right. Okay. So last question from my end. So how are you reading markets at the moment? Post COVID and market has bounced back. Nifty is at 12,000 levels.
Correct. Yeah, so see, there can be some retracement in the market always after such a big rally. So there can be some retracement in the market, but based on the ground level checks, I can tell you that many sectors in India, like auto components, tires, cement, even some part of textiles, apart from of course FMCG, pharma, IT, which everybody knows are doing well. But some of the sectors have started doing really well. In some sectors, for example, there are some import restrictions, right, which is creating opportunity for domestic companies. In some sectors, there are themes like shift out of China. For example, home textiles, garment exports, ceramic tiles, chemicals. These are the sectors where there is a theme of shift out of China playing out. So, and of course, needless to say, the last theme is that in all the sectors, because of this 3 or 4 months of extreme pessimism and lockdown, there are many players who are unfortunately affected very badly. Players with weak balance sheets, unorganized players, marginal players, very small scale players. Unfortunately, they are all affected, and so that gives the opportunity for the listed companies who are not leveraged to gain market share. So, for example, just to give you one example of such industry, paints. Paints is you can see in a environment when everybody is scared of calling people to come to their home to paint their homes. But if you talk to paint companies, they are doing phenomenally well. Because they are gaining, because in tier 2, tier 3 towns in rural India, the fear of pandemic is not that great. So people are actually painting their houses, and you have all the entire unorganized sector going out of the system. So the organized players are gaining market share. So there are 4 or 5 themes that, in spite of the fact that we have come out of pandemic, in spite of the fact that economy was already not doing that well, even pre-COVID, in spite of the fact you have many winners in the listed space.
All right. So thank you so much for taking the time out from your busy schedule and coming and interacting with us.
Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, we'll be in touch with you continuously.
Sure.
All right. So now I'll come to Mr. Devi Prasad Nair. So I had an opportunity to work with him during my stint with HSBC as well. So Devi heads as I mentioned, Devi heads the alternate business for ICICI AMC. So Devi, just to understand, since you head the business Pan India, can you throw some more lights on how investors should be able to take the advantage of alternate asset class, particularly in India? And how do you think this asset class is shaping up in India as we embark the journey of $5 trillion?
Sure. Thank you. Thank you very much. First of all, Vikas, for having us, and talking to us. Really appreciate the gesture. And yes, so coming to your, the questions, which is, why it makes sense for an investor to have an alternate class. Now you look at,
could you be a little bit louder, please? Because
can you hear?
Yeah,
Is it okay now?
Yeah, much better.
Yeah. So see, from a perspective of an investor today, you look at the shift, which the data shows, right? You look at the shift now today. If you look at the mutual fund industry, that is one of the comparisons, right? A direct comparison. If you look at the HNI or ultra HNI, equity holdings, roughly the guesstimate is about 2.8 trillion, right, in INR terms, right? That's the assets which they hold. And if you look at the PMS and AIF industry, I'm just talking of the recent numbers which are disclosed, which we have gathered from the SEBI website. collectively, PMS and AIF collectively, and I'm talking about only the Cat 3 AIF collectively would be about 1.8 trillion INR terms, right? So what I'm
Sorry,
trying to,
your voice is also breaking and not louder. Yeah, if you could just keep the mic closer to
yes,
your
wait,
face.
I will fix this. Yeah, now is it okay?
Yeah, yeah, slightly better.
Okay. Yes. So basically, what I'm trying to drive the point here is, there is already a shift, and that's basically called seeking alpha. That, investor from the ultra HNI or HNI family office, these segments have already, we are seeing a trend of shift from the traditional, investment class, which is the mutual fund, right, to a alternative investment class. And that's essentially because of one reason, that, over a period of time in last 10-15 years, due to the regulatory changes on the mutual fund side, uh, you know uh, beating the index and generating alpha has become slightly difficult for the fund managers. Incrementally it is becoming to beat the indices because of the constraints, and generating higher alpha. So in pursuit of getting the higher alpha, we are already seeing that trend, the shift in that trend, from that's one of the case, here, that clearly, if you look at PMSs, in our case itself, our contra, which we launched in 2018 September, if you look at absolute terms, we've been able to generate about 5% alpha. In CAGR terms, over a benchmark, there is a 3.5% alpha. So what our logic is very, very clear on the alternative space, that, that the mandate which we run internally is very clear, that, in a falling market, from a HNI UHNI perspective, the objective is to, fall lesser than the market. And when the market is rising, you need to do a higher alpha, so that over a period of next, 3 year, 5 year, 7 and 10 year, right, for a longer period, the gap between, the gap which you build with the benchmarks keeps widening. The alpha keeps widening. So for a shorter tenure, you might have an alpha of 2 to 3%, right? And then, slightly medium tenure, you might have an alpha of 5%. And that the objective is to widen the alpha. And, that's one of the benefit, which an investor gets when they come in. Second, there are different strategies which are deployed in the alternative space. Like Contra follows a very different strategy, what Parag discussed. Just we did we and you can do concentrated portfolios, like we did Pipe PMS recently, where we raised money when we thought that it was the right time to raise money. In the last cycle also, 2013, we raised money, we gave the money back in 2018 to investors, and then again we have raised money last year, and we are riding the theme at this point of time. And when we feel that, the opportunity, the valuations are stretched, or and it's time for us to give the money back, we will again, not shy away by giving the money back to the investors. So those are the benefits, which investors, try to look at when they invest in alternatives, and that's the benefit they get while investing in alternatives.
Okay, okay. So how do you see going ahead the AIF and PMS industry, how it is shaping up?
So see, as I rightly said, there are clear emerging trends on the PMS and AIF side. From a investor perspective, now the regulatory changes are also pro-investor, right? Where regulator is asking us to look at performance-based fees and so on. So I think it is more favorable to investor, while mutual fund as a class, it's there, it's always there, it is always available. This is slightly specialized. It can hold concentrated portfolios, it can do thematic plays, it can deploy different strategies, long short, and so that's clearly a differentiation which is there. And I my sense is that as the economy grows, right, today we are $2.5 trillion economy, roughly, and we aspire to be a $5 trillion economy. That will, as that happens, as that shift happens, we will see, this 1.8 trillion INR also, sort of growing to 3 trillion INR, and the industry is here to grow. There are many new players who have, boutique firms who have come in. So there is clearly an emerging trend on this side, that there are investors who are willing to give money to, fund house like us, who are they are betting on us, and they are also diversifying to some of the other, houses who have come, and it's purely investment strategy play rather than a generic, play which is, which is more commoditized, right? In terms of ETF and all that, a passive fund and all that. It is more of a, it is basically for investors, those who want concentration, they want some certain amount of stock selection, investment philosophy, investment strategy, a differentiated thought process altogether, right? So those who want that, those who are more savvier investors, I think they are clearly preferring to come to this side of the business, is what I have seen as a trend, and
Sure,
I
sure.
think that would continue.
All right. So can I say that it's not about mutual fund versus PMS versus AIF? It is about
It is,
mutual fund and PMS
yes, yes,
and
yes.
AIF depending upon the size of the portfolio as an
Absolutely,
investor is looking at.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely, yes, absolutely. It is there. There is nowhere. There is no way. It is, or mutual fund, or, right. It is,
Yeah.
and all three have to be hand in hand. I mean, when we run our PMSs, also we run contra as a all-time strategy, all market strategy, and then when we launch pipe, we ask investors to take it in a combination, so that, on an overall basket they have a limited exposure to small cap, right? A concentrated small cap bet. But what we try and do from our side is to, identify the time of that theme, though it is very difficult to time the market. But we sort of, based on some of the quant data and all, we try and identify, okay, this is the right time to, buy this theme. Similarly, on the mutual fund side, there are products, there are very beautiful strategies. As a house, we also run, some of the best strategies, right? So while those are always available, this is something very different. These are strategies which are,
It is
very
more, yeah, customized, tailor made depending upon the client.
customized, tailor made. Those who want to see what we are buying, what we are selling, they get to see that. So
Sure.
there is,
It's
yeah.
even more transparent.
Yes. So transparency wise, it is, it's crystal clear, right? Everything is known to the investor. What we buy, what we sell, when we buy, when we sell. So all those things are there, and it is, the another point which is there is that here, the customer actually, basically, what happens to the customer is that customer is responsible for his portfolio, right? So basically, in mutual fund, it is pool of asset. In our side, PMS, what happens is that, if today market has fallen, an investor wants to buy, it is his money going into his, portfolio, and that creates a slightly a differentiation, between the MF
Yeah.
and
So the
PMS.
way I look at is, for example, I use Ola more often, and when I use the Ola app, I have three options. One is
Yeah,
the pooling option, the
yeah,
other one is sedan car, and the
yes,
third one is luxury car.
yes,
Now
yes,
here it is absolutely my choice. If I wish to sit in sedan, I
yes,
mean I don't expect anybody to tell me that no, you have to sit in the pool car, because
yeah,
there I get the I have my secrecy privacy over there,
yes, yes,
and I get the whatever internet access to it, and I listen to the song which I love to
yes,
listen to.
yes.
So I think this choice should be made available to the investor instead of as an advisor we restricting somebody to do what we want to do it.
Yes,
So I
yes,
think well said. I think I truly agree to that. Coming back to Parag bhai, so last question from my end before we conclude the session. So can you give us a sense, how do you run your contra fund, contra PMS, and what's your attempt, what is it that you're trying to achieve out of this, how and what kind of contrarian calls that you've taken so far which worked well in the interest of the investors? You have to unmute yourself.
Yeah, I'm audible.
Yeah, you're audible.
Okay. So the see Contra, what Contra is trying to do is exactly what I said. That every investment opportunity which ticks all my fundamental parameters in terms of quality of business and promoter, in terms of return ratio, in terms of leverage, and in terms of operating cash flow generation, and lastly valuations. And valuations, as I told you, it comes with the sentiment. So if the sentiments are negative, you get the stock at a right value. So Contra tries to do that at all the times. If you see the portfolio today, it is 75 to 80% in large caps. So the attempt is to be in liquid names. The other attempt is also to get the sector call right. So whenever, for example, recently we are all heading towards a good times for cement sector. So we are positioned that way. Just ahead of, I would say, monsoon. For example, we took the call that rural centric themes will do well, and so we were positioned that way in terms of rural centric automobile stocks, uh, right, or FMCG stocks. And some of the very good examples which I can give you are in the space of, for example, a largest biscuit company was available at a 52-week low when the other unlisted company said that the biscuit sales are not doing well, and so we took that opportunity in our contra fund and built a reasonably large position there. Some time ago, a largest IT company was underperforming the entire sector, while other IT stocks were doing well, and so we built a reasonably good position there. And this is a very recent example, I can tell you. Prior to that, for example, when during in automobile, there are so many examples. As I told you, rural centric automobile businesses, or I would say insurance companies, whenever there was a compulsive selling, which was required, which was a regulatory requirement that banks had to reduce stake in insurance companies. And so it was a forced compulsive selling, which gave us a very good entry point in a secular sector like insurance. And most importantly, because banking and financials are always considered to be a leveraged play on the economy. So whenever there is a negative sentiment around economy, banks and financials, especially private sector banks with very strong deposit franchises and CASA, these banks always come to a very good valuation where it makes a lot of sense, and where it gives you a very good contra opportunity. In the month of January, just to tell you, when banks were the valuation of banks were euphoric, we were overweight on pharma. Because in pharma you were getting the largest respiratory franchise company at just 15 PE in the month of January. And it takes, and believe me, it takes a hell to build such a company where every doctor is prescribing you, I would say, a chronic lifestyle disorder problem medicines. And so it's actually a more stickier business than FMCG, and it's a day-to-day need. And those kind of businesses were available at only 15 P's, right? While consumer stocks were trading at above 40 P, excluding ITC. So I would say that such contra opportunities we have always tried to seize in our portfolio.
All right. So thank you so much. It is always pleasure interacting with ICICI Pru team. And I think you are one of the largest asset management company in India today. So I would like to thank all of you for generating the consistent alpha for the investor community as a whole. So thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, David. Thanks for coming.